Nothing, darling, except she's a lesbian. You know that. Her feelings will be different. I just don't want her to turn you into something that could affect the whole of your life.
You think I'd do that? Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot.
I just want to make sure you're aware of the dangers, that's all. I'm your father, Tracy, and I worry about you.
Well, maybe you should get to know me a little bit better. I'm going.
Tracy.
Why don't you just visit the prison officers? You seem to believe them more than you believe me.
I didn't handle that very well, did I?
No, not really.
Meg, do you think I could see this duty person?
I don't think that'd achieve anything.
It might.
Friends are very important in a place like this, Bob. You can't take that away from Tracy. There's little enough to cling on to as it is.
If I have to stay in the nursery, I'll be climbing up the walls worrying about Elizabeth.
She could be released in a day or so. It's a waste of time moving you.
But I just think I'll be better off away from the nursery with something to do. You know what I mean, Mrs. Davidson?
Very well. I see no harm in your working with the others. But you'll have to return to the nursery in the evenings.
But, Mrs. Davidson, once she gets back into the mainstream of the prison, she'll only cause trouble.
I'll keep me nose clean unless someone sees to it I don't get a fair go.
What do you mean by that, Latham?
Oh, nothing. I was just thinking I was better off at Barnhurst. At least the screws there didn't keep pulling the rug out from under you all the time.
Barnhurst?
We all know what you got up to in there, which is why you were transferred to a prison where security was much tighter.
Would you wait outside, please, Latham?
Thanks, Mrs. Davidson.
Miss Bennett, do you remember a woman about 5 to 7 years ago who escaped from Barnhurst? Was it a Jackie someone?
Nolan, I think. Yes, about 5 or 6 years ago. And she hasn't been caught. What made you think of her?
Word association, I suppose. Erica Davidson? Yes, Dr. Henderson. Well, how did that happen? I see. It's most unfortunate. Is there any way of keeping this quiet? Oh, yes, of course. But if you could just explain to them how important it is to her. Oh, thank you, Frank. Oh, it won't happen again, I can assure you. Goodbye. That was the superintendent of the hospital where Doreen works. Why did you deliberately ignore my instructions and make it known that she was an ex-prisoner?
She was rude and abusive. I only put her back in her place.
And what do you mean by place?
I won't allow anyone to speak to me like that, especially
Miss Bennett, she is no longer under your jurisdiction and can say exactly what she thinks. If that girl loses her job because of your malicious attitude towards her, I shall make sure this is reported to the department.
If she loses her job, it'll be because she's incompetent and unreliable. Nothing to do with me.
It is that sort of attitude which turns the women into recidivists.
Rubbish. She's been like that all her life.
I will not tolerate this from you or anyone else on my staff, Miss Bennett.
I'm entitled to my opinion. Or does that privilege only belong to women who aren't fit enough to mix in society, let alone work in it?
If you ever voice such an opinion to me again or to any one of the inmates, I shall recommend that you are unsuitable to hold your position.
Beauty.
Well, I don't suppose you wanted to see me out of the goodness of your heart, so I can only imagine that it's because of Tracy, right?
I won't beat around the bush, Miss Bryant. I'm worried about your relationship with my daughter.
Relationship? Well, you must know something I don't. Tracy didn't say anything like that to you, did she?
Perhaps I used too strong a word. Your influence over her. 2 years to someone as young as Tracy can seem an eternity.
Well, it doesn't get any easier the longer you're in here, you know.
The point I'm trying to make is this. She'll still have a whole life ahead of her. Now, I can help her start afresh, but I cannot wipe out any bad experiences she might have had in here that could affect her emotionally for the rest of her life.
And I'm one of those bad experiences, right?
What could you possibly have in common with her?
Isn't being here enough?
But surely there are other women, like yourself. You don't need my daughter's friendship.
Tracy needs me. I'm someone that she can rely on. I kind of like that.
Even if it could be detrimental to her,
Caring about someone has never hurt anyone, Mr. Morris. Can I ask you a question? Supposing Tracy did turn to a woman for more than just support, would you stop loving her?
Of course not.
Good. Because 20 years ago, my father turned on me. And I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone.
Miss Bryant, You understand. I had to be sure.
People like me learn not to be sensitive, Mr. Morris. It hurts too much.
You know, I'll lay you 10 to 1 it was either Fletcher or Old Vinegar.
But why would he believe them and not me?
Well, because things can get pretty screwed up when you're talking through bars, love. So next time, don't go rushing off without giving things a good airing, OK? And don't let them get to you, because that's just what they want.
Spreading yourself around the other ladies now, Morris.
You know, I've got a theory might interest you, Vera.
I'm not interested. What are you doing here anyway, Morris? Have you decided you want to work in the laundry? To be near your friends, I suppose.
You know, I reckon it's the ones with the one-track mind that have got the problem, because I think they're frightened they're a bit that way themselves. What's the matter, Vera? Had trouble getting a good bloke recently?
You've got a disgusting mind, Smith.
That was yours I was talking about.
Now get back to work, all of you, before I put you on report. And what are you standing around for? You wanted to be back with the pack, didn't you?
What are you doing here? I wanted to take my mind off things.
Oh, yeah, I heard about your kid. How is she?
They're going to keep her there for a while till her lungs clear up. By the way, Doreen sends her love.
Oh, you said it. How is she? What's she doing?
Oh, Bea, she'll be lucky to hang on to that job after what Vera did.
What do you mean?
She only blabbed in front of the nurses that Dor's been inside, and they weren't supposed to know.
That bitch.
Still, Davo gave her a really good bawling out. Said if she didn't change her attitude, even towards us, she'd be in for the chop.
If anything happens to Doreen, Davo's going to have to stand in line for Vera. Wait a minute. You reckon she's going to have to change her attitude even to us? Now that's what I call very interesting.
I thought you should see this.
You had to keep digging, didn't you, Mrs. Davidson?
I had to be certain, Mr. Fletcher.
Of me? You think I knew about this all along?
The fact remains that Sarah Forrest and Jackie Nolan could quite possibly be one and the same.
Well, all right, it looks like it. But it can't be.
Admittedly, that was taken about 8 years ago, but it was close enough for me to follow up. I had the department send me the file without too much interest on their part because I felt you might want to see her yourself.
What for? So I can accuse her of being an escapee? Of being an accessory to armed robberies?
If you are certain it is Nolan, I hope that you might be able to convince her to give herself up. For the past 6 years, she's proven herself to be a respected and trusted member of the community. That's why I hesitated in reporting my suspicions. I think she should be given the chance to come forward herself.
She had 3 more years to serve.
If you like, I could hand it over to the police.
Well, it's probably just a coincidence.
It could be.
I'll see what I can do.
What are you doing here, Doreen? You were meant to be off duty 2 hours ago.
I was just keeping Elizabeth company in case she's missing her mum. You know, they're never left on their own in Wentworth. There's always people around. Anyway, it's better for me than sitting at home doing nothing.
You won't be here much longer, Doreen. Until you're transferred, I won't have you wandering in and out whenever you feel like it.
What do you mean, sister? Where am I going?
I've suggested to Dr. Henderson that you work in another part of the hospital entirely.
Away from the kids.
I hope for your sake your past doesn't catch up with you again.
But I want to work with kids. They said I could.
You'll upset the children.
Please let me stay. No one else will find out.
I can't take that responsibility. Steve's mother is moving him tomorrow because she can't trust a hospital that employs what she considers a dangerous element to the children.
I've never hurt a kid in my life.
2 of the nurses have already refused to work on the same ward as you. I'm sorry.
I want to have a word with you, Miss Bennett.
You can't come here. You're not allowed.
It's too bad, because I'm staying until I've said what I came to say.
If you don't get right away from here, I'll call the police.
It'll take them a good 10 minutes to get here, and that's all the time I need to tell everyone what I think of you. You want your neighbours to know what sort of bitch they're living next to? You want them to hear what you've done to me, Miss Bennett?
Will you keep your voice down, Burns?